Because a lot of investment has gone in building electronic payment capabilities, electronic payment capacities, and electronic payment processing ideas and processing platforms. There's a lot of shareholder value that's been created. And if we do not pay attention to the potentials and the risks here, there's a lot of shareholder value that can be destroyed from the perspective of fraud and from the perspective of cybercrime. So for me, I said it's twofold. There's the good side of it, which indicates development, which indicates progress, and there's the scary side of it, which indicates potential significant loss of shareholder value. So we need to pay attention to cybersecurity. We need to pay attention to cybercrime. That's a brief introduction into what I want to speak about over the next 5 to 7 minutes. The immense growth of the FinTech ecosystem is a welcome development, just like I stated. But it also comes with its attendant challenges in securing the entire payments processing ecosystem. If you look at global net revenues, digital payment, electronic payments, whatever you want to put in that bucket for 2022 was over $2.2 trillion. That's a lot of money made from the infrastructure, from the transactions, from the processing, and from the capacity that has been built globally in digital payments, electronic payments, whatever you call it. It's huge and it's growing. The potential for this year is to grow by about 75% of that. So you're looking at things over $4 trillion. And a lot of that will be made by companies sitting in this room. I can see one of them right here. Now, the scary part of that is estimated about $42 billion of that $2.2 trillion was lost to fraud, triggered largely by cybercrime. $42 billion is a lot of money. It's a small percentage, but my professors in business school have always told me in our evaluation class, a small percentage of a big number is a big number. So you have to pay attention to it. Now, this $42 billion is growing. That's not the final number. It's growing because everybody's paying attention to the innovation going on in the industry, globally, locally, in this region, and they are trying to stay 10 steps ahead. These are the hackers, the cybercrime professionals, looking and trying to understand what aspects of a company's platform they can test, they can break, and commit fraud. So we have to be alert. We have to understand that the more the innovation we make, the more progress we make, the more interested hackers will be in what we're doing and to see how they can break the process and take advantage of what we have not paid attention to. So it's very, very important. During the past decade, individuals and e-commerce merchants have increasingly adopted payment services, and about half the recent growth has been in consumer to business and business to consumer payments. We're seeing it. Last quarter, there was an explosion. As a switching platform, eTransact as a switching platform, driving value-added services for banks in the industry. We noticed transaction throughput growing 4x, 5x from the highs of November, December last year. Because seasonally, November, December, you see a lot of electronic payment transactions because it's festival period, salaries increase, so much going on, 13 months, so you see an explosion in November, December. And I tell you, what we saw in the first quarter was 4-5x. Never seen that before. I've been doing electronic payments for 10 years. eTransact has been doing electronic payments for 20 years. So it's growing, it's real. How do we protect it? The expectation and the preference is for it to continue to grow. But we have to be ready because the more innovative products, innovative solutions, innovative services we put out there, the more interest the professional dark web operators get in how to steal money from the platform. That's the risk. But is that going to stop us from being innovative? Should that stop us from creating solutions that are convenient? Today, we've built several payment touch points, USSD, mobile, POS, different things, trying to build convenience into the process. If you're going to use a handheld, by the third click, you should have consummated the payment. So you want to simplify the process. You don't have to stay 5 minutes trying to do a payment. But the more convenient you try to go, at what stage would you be taking too much risk in reducing the security aspects and the security protocols that should mitigate such attacks on the system? These are things to think about. Digital payment mechanisms include cards and other payment innovations, such as digital wallets, like I said. The shift to digital payments is expected to continue. It has to continue. That's why I wake up every day. That's what keeps me up at night every day. The shift to digital payments must continue. So I expect more explosion. I expect more growth. But we have to be ready. It's a necessary evil. So we have to be ready for this. Now, what are the issues? How long will this boom, this growth, and this explosion that I've identified, that we all see in everything we do on a daily basis, how long will it continue without us experiencing wholesale, targeted, deliberate, fraudulent activities in cybercrime? As new fraud patterns within the ecosystem evolve. It's crazy. Recently, we heard about ransomware seizing CBAs of banks, seizing databases of institutions and corporations. And then they demand a ransom. It's happening, they're watching. But is that going to restrict our growth and development as an industry? It's important that we collaborate. Truth be told, fraud has been around since the very origin of e-commerce. However, the boom in online sales and purchases resulted from the COVID-19 crisis offered fraudsters a new window of opportunity, because that was the first evolution of growth and explosion we experienced in payments. Non-present transactions grew, web transactions grew, person non-present, because we were all locked down for like 6 to 8 weeks before, and there was an explosion of data because everybody was Netflixing, Zooming, Microsoft Teaming, Google Meetings, and all of that stuff. So data consumption grew significantly. We saw that, and it has remained at that level because now we understand that we all don't have to have prime real estate to close the best businesses and close the best deals in the country anymore, or in the world. You can do it from anywhere. I've taken several board meetings out of Nigeria, and I think that's going to continue. What makes that available? The fact that all of us here coming together to build digital payment structures allows people to be able to buy stuff without actually going anywhere. That's good development, that's good progress. That's going to impact our GDP positively. In this part of the world, this part of the continent, we are going to solve our problems. Nobody's going to come and solve it for us. A lot of the gains we've made in digital payments is because it is solving our complex social problems. Mobile, we were doing mobile banking before the United States dreamt of it. In fact, about 10 years ago, what the US understood as mobile banking was you take a picture of your check and you send it. Once it's validated, they authorize your payment. Wow. Yes. Yes, I live and work in America. I know exactly what I still have foreign bank accounts, so I know what it is. But because they had money, they have technology, they have stability, they have built robust mobile platforms that are beginning to shadow what we have here. But it doesn't mean what we have collectively built over time, will not stand the test of time. I think it will, but we just need to focus on how to secure and protect as we continue to build convenience into what we do. We're getting to a place where if a solution is not convenient, it's not going to work. So then it comes to convenience versus security. That's the battle I have in my risk team on a daily basis. Convenience versus security. We've tried to build solutions using the methodology of the late Apple CEO, who wants anybody that buys an Apple product to be able to play music or consummate your transaction by the third interaction with the phone. First, second, third, done. We've tried to build that into payments, but what will be at risk? Because it's all about convenience. There will be a rise in omni-channel commerce, broader attack surface for fraudsters. A lot of service providers, banks, institutions are moving in that direction. But what it's invariably created is a broader platform for fraudsters to come after us. There will be an increase in friendly fraud in response to rising inflation. Market is difficult. Living is difficult. Sustainability is getting harder. So people will be looking for cheap, quick ways to make money. There are also sophisticated and technologically advanced attack vectors employed by fraudsters, some of which I've explained. The ransomware, the seizing of core banking applications, seizing of institutional databases, and requesting ransom before they can release it. But there are ways around it. Fraud and cybercrime will always impact the consumer experience. If I've used a platform as a leading payment platform provider, if I use a platform with all my tech savvy, all my knowledge, all my little experience I've gathered over, if I use a platform and I lose money on that platform, I ain't going back there. Exactly. So it's a one-time thing. Maybe because I'm knowledgeable somewhat, you're probably not as knowledgeable as most of you, but I'm knowledgeable somewhat, I can try to understand what broke, and if it's something that I know that can be fixed, maybe I can give it another shot, but it's a 50-50 thing. I will not look at it without looking away. I will always have my eye on that transaction. Yeah, and you know that culturally, Nigeria is a bit different. There was a World Bank research I studied, I think in 2012, when they were looking at why mobile money was working in Kenya and it wasn't working in Nigeria, considering the fact that Nigeria had probably all the platforms, drivers, regulation to drive it. But culturally in Nigeria, we like the touch of cash. We like to feel cash. That was the study. Nigerians love that currency. Also, we like to be involved in the end-to-end process of paying you. Because I want to look you in the eye and tell you, I've given you your money and you've collected it. It's waiting for an electronic transfer, SMS, and I'm somewhere, you're somewhere. I know value has left me, and to give you any opportunity to tell me that the value that has left me has not gotten to you is a no-no. So those are one of the drawbacks. But regardless, we're able to surmount it. The growth has been explosive. I just shared with you, first quarter, 5x. Unbelievable. But to sustain it, we have to be ready with the right infrastructure and the right security protocols. How do we counter all this? First of all, better and robust cybersecurity policy framework. I think these are started. I think the chief regulator of the industry has put a framework together, and it provides a risk-based approach to cybersecurity risk, which includes 5 key factors: cybersecurity governance and oversight, cybersecurity risk management system, cyber resilience assessment, cybersecurity operational resilience, cyber threat intelligence and metrics, monitoring and reporting. Always critical to monitor and report what you're tracking, so you can evaluate if it's working for you or not. With all this in place and well executed, we are in the right path to fight fraud and cybercrime. Second, implement an active fraud monitoring system. For me, this is what we all can do. As we build the solutions, let's build the other solutions that help us to track what's going on. And we have to be collaborative, guys. From our study, it's not a big research, just based on, speaking to players in the industry, partners. It takes about 48 hours for stolen money to be completely wiped out of the electronic payment system. Remember that if money is stolen from an account, the final destination before it is transferred or evolves into cash is also an account. Now, think about a world where we all collaborate, regardless of bank, regardless of wallet provider. Once there is an established fraud, there is a red alert across the industry, and all the accounts that have received those monies are frozen. A quick reconciliation can be done within 24 hours, and you can learn the incremental value that has gone into those accounts as a result of the fraud that was triggered. If you block that, yes, fraud has happened, but money was not missing. We are all connected one way or the other. Why are we not achieving that? For me, that is the biggest question. And that is where we need to collaborate. A lot of institutions in between like to protect their customers. A lot of other institutions like to protect themselves so that the information is not out there that, oh, fraud is happening. Fraud happened on this platform last month, happened on this 2 months, this platform is the, I don't want, a lot of people keep that information because they don't want to be viewed as the platform of fraud. But like we've said, it will always happen. The strongest corporations in the world have attempted fraud attacks. It will always happen. The global account schemes make a fraud provision of 2% of their net revenues every year. That's a lot of money. It's a fraud provision. So once they have fraud, they just put it there while they do their investigation, business goes on, customers are not at a loss. We need to collaborate. If we don't collaborate, we will always continue to lose. There will always be fraud because we're innovating and we're progressing. New ideas, new ways of thinking. There will always be fraud, but we can combat it, reduce it, eradicate it if we collaborate as an institution. Banks, payment switches, wallet providers, mobile money operators, PTSPs, PSSPs, all the players across the value chain need to come together and understand that if we don't collaborate, today it may not be my company that is being attacked or my company that is the platform where fraud has been propagated. But once the commonality continues, we begin to lose trust in the industry where we have all worked together to build. We all saw what happened in the first quarter. Yes, transaction value, transaction processing, transaction count, participants in the electronic payments grew 4 or 5 times. But were people really happy with the level and quality of service? No. It can always be better. And I believe we lost some mileage there because the industry wasn't ready to take that explosion at that time. A lot of gains that we had built in the last 10 years in terms of convincing people to trust the digital payment process. If we don't collaborate as players in fighting cybercrime by providing information when fraud has happened and seeing how to block it before value is finally lost, we begin to build distrust, mistrust in the industry, and confidence of participants in the industry will begin to drop. So the critical word for me is collaboration. While I close, the sad reality is that fraud has escalated and will continue to escalate as digital adoption increases. But like I said, and like I opened with, it's a twofold impact. First of all, the fact that there is a lot of focus on what we're doing here means that there's progress happening here. There's innovation happening here. There are new ways of doing things happening here, which people are trying to bring and see how they can take advantage of the system. The second aspect, which is the not so good aspect, is the fact that a lot of investments have gone into these innovative ideas and a lot of shareholder value has been created. If we do not protect what we have built collectively, in a collaborative way, shareholder value will be destroyed. Thank you very much.
Please, another round of applause for. I think we're getting more and more insightful about cybersecurity and fraud. Ladies and gentlemen, permit me at this point to invite the keynote presentation from the CEO of Pampe, Mr. Chikamosu. Please, a round of applause for him. If you know you are going there, don't clap. But if you know you are not going there, clap, please. I'm sure you know they are one of the bigger FinTech platforms most of us relied on. The days of the banks disappointing us. Well, we'll wait for the tech guys to make ready their presentation. Are we ready? Are we ready? You ready? Well, you need not worry. We have not been hacked. Neither do we not know that we have been hacked. You know, there are some interesting things today. I meant there are just two types of companies. You have been hacked, you know that you've been hacked, and the other one you've been hacked, you just don't know, and you're waiting, posting notes smoothly. So I think some of you should check your phones whether you've been hacked. Check your laptop so that you will hacked. While the tech guy is uploading the presentation, there are some interesting facts about cybersecurity. It's how to deal with people in rural areas. You know, there was this survey in Kenya, and I'm glad the guy said it. You know, they make phones for different categories of people in East Africa. Those who stay in rural areas and those who stay in urban areas. But in Nigeria, you will find somebody using a Pro Max in a village where there's no electricity. And so Nigerians are aspirational across board. So when you are hacked, you can be hacked anywhere, and the hackers first stay in more remote areas. The ones that hacked our site were in one village somewhere near Ogo town, where we traced them. And when we got there, he had already spent 100,000 of airtime. And how did we even get him? We got him when he sent airtime to his mother, 50,000. So it could be interesting, you know. He hacked us around 2 a.m. He first moved 600,000 naira worth of airtime. And then he sold off the airtime and then kept some. So the people he sold to in bulk we couldn't trace, but we were able to trace the one he sent to his mother because we checked his most frequently used numbers. And then we traced it and we met the guy. In fact, we didn't know where to, you know when you come to arrest somebody, you don't know where to pick him up from. He was looking so fragile, so young. I think he's about 17, about 16. Yeah, he was about 16. He had his laptop and then the policeman said, "Are you sure you are the person?" I said, "Yes, I'm the person." The policeman looked at me. You know, they didn't know where to place their handcuffs or that. You know, so just anything, just follow us. And you know, while driving from Odo town to Lagos, the policeman will turn and look at him in the car. "Are you sure?" And another sad part, he didn't want his mother to know. Because he said the mother will not die if he hears about it. But sadly, the mother was a prophetess, so she had to come and pray for him himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, while I was enlightening you about my experience with a cybercrime expert, permit me to introduce to you the MD CEO of PalmPay Limited, Mr. Chika Wosu. He will take us through cybersecurity. Please, a round of applause for him.
Thank you very much. I'll be standing on the existing protocol. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'll be taking you through, please go back to the first slide. I'll be taking you through the cybersecurity in the financial services. You know, everything we are discussing here today is boiled down to one thing. Is trust, the confidence of our users or maybe the customers. Just like what the last speaker said here, he said, when the users or maybe the customers lost the confidence in the business, automatically the business will fail. So in the financial ecosystem, as soon as we started losing the confidence and the trust of our customers, our users, we start having a very serious problem. So the people will decide to go back to the old way of banking. So first slide, please. Second slide. So my presentation is going to be in 3 parts. The first is the threats and challenges which we are facing in the financial ecosystem. The second is scams and fraud report. So we did some survey on our users. We decided to look at like 10,000 users. We did a survey of them and be able to get some information which I'm going to share with you here. Then the approaches, the risk approaches, which we also use to protect the system, to keep out cyber criminals from our system. Okay, so in the course of doing business in the FinTech sector, we have been able to identify several security threats. Some of these security threats include what we call the robo simulation. You know, in robo simulation, what the cyber criminal does is this. They create a robot. This robot keep on sending messages, sending emails to people. So when these emails comes to you, you will be thinking that it's a genuine person that is sending you the emails, and when you respond to it, the purpose of whatever they are doing is just to scam and take away people's money. Then we have the identity theft. Identity theft is very, very common these days. There are sometimes you see we get some complaint in our office where someone will say that is, what do you call it, WhatsApp is hacked. What they do is that they hack into people's WhatsApp. They start sending messages to the contact in that WhatsApp, even to the friends and the family members. Maybe, for instance, they say Chika's father is sick. Maybe they have hacked into my account. I say Chika's father is sick and Chika cannot have access to money. Or maybe the person decided that he is Chika. So he gives you an account number where you are going to start, people start donating money to that account. At the end of the day, they clear that account. Before the person realizes that his account has had, they have used that process to collect a lot of money from different people. Then we have the malware, which they inject into the system. Well, the only purpose of whatever they are doing is just to get data and also to compromise people's account. The end product is to take money out of the account. We have the phishing mail, the money laundering, the account takeover, the man in the middle. We also have what we call the monster in the middle, the machine in the middle. In this case, what it means is that they will position themselves. When there is a communication between a user and application, they position themselves in that place, and the purpose is also to get information, to get data in order to compromise the system. Then the credit card fraud, which is also becoming very common these days. So the next slide. So we did a survey of 10,000 users in our platform, and we noticed that out of these 10,000 people, 29% of these users has experienced cyber attack. So when we say 29, that means out of the 10,000, almost about 2,900 of them has experienced cyber attack. So out of these 29%, 10% of them has experienced email phishing. 7% has experienced account takeover. 11% has also experienced identity theft. Then 5% also have experienced malware. So we also look at the online fraud. If online fraud is the most common cause of user financial loss. Yeah, because most of the transactions we do these days is online. Definitely. We don't hear of real robbers attacking people trying to collect, because most of the people don't even carry money in their pocket. So the only way they steal money, when Ade was talking, he said that in those days when robbers supposed to go and attack bank or do any armed robbery attack, they have to sit down, get gun and do a lot of other things. But in this case, you don't need to do that. Somebody with a mobile phone can see that somewhere in one remote place and start attacking financial institutions and start attacking accounts. So based on the same survey of 10,000 users, we noticed that 87% of these people has encountered content online which they believe to be a scam or fraud. That is 8,700 of these people. Just to tell you the extent of this. 45% of them have personally been drawn into engaging in an online scam or fraud. 1 out of 3 of these people have been scammed. So this is the fraud reports. The most common fraud report, just as I told you earlier, is impersonation. Some people will present themselves to be genuine. Sometimes they will even tell you that they are bank officials. They will send you a message and say you should contact this number. And when you call the number, they say that I'm so and so person working with so and so bank. We noticed that there is a problem in your account. So you need the number in your credit card or maybe your debit card. Once this number is released, your account has been compromised. Automatically, you will definitely lose money. So it consists of 30% of the fraud. Then giveaway. Most of the times when you go online, you see a lot of giveaway. They say that federal government of Nigeria is giving 100,000 to they're giving 100,000 to you between the age of 18 to 35. For you to get this money, you have to go so and so number. As soon as you make that call, from that moment, they lead you on, get 1 or 2 information from you, automatically you will be defrauded. Then investment platform, a lot of different kind of scam investment platform is also online, and so you have to be very careful of this. Then we have the online shopping. Most times they will send a link to you and say you can buy this or buy that. As soon as you put it, they say you put in your debit card number, as you put what is the PIN and the rest of it, automatically they will extract all your information and use it to compromise your account and transfer the money in your account. Then the cryptocurrency, they also have the simulator game and also loan. Say if they say if you want to get a loan of 200,000, click here or go there. Once you do that, you are losing money. So the next slide. Actually, most of this fraud may be, just like what the East African game said. All of us are working in the same ecosystem. This money can be tracked. You can rescue it, but we have a challenge. The most of the challenge we have is this. Out of the whole of the 10,000 people, we realize that it is only 33% of them is only the people who report in less than 24 hours that they have been scammed. The rest of them does not report until it is almost about even 7 days. So when it is about 7 days, what we do? We cannot be able to do anything again. A fraud that happened today, because what the first time was when they push the money from the first account, move to the settlement account, the next thing is to pull out the cash. So, and if we can, or maybe financial institutions, we'll be able to be getting this report within 24 hours or less than 48 hours. Maybe the money will be surveyed. So these are the top reasons why consumers or people or users are being scammed. The first is lack of security awareness. The lawyer here, I was surprised when she said that she doesn't even know that you can put a pin on your SIM card. I think that is very important. It's very, very important because whenever that your phone is lost, the first thing they're going for is your SIM card. Because when they put it, they'll be able to extract most of your information. You won't have access to some of your contacts. Then another is a lack of knowledge about protecting personal information. I go to Vanguard Media as well. It won't handle this platform. There must be a very strong collaboration awareness between the media houses and the banks and the FinTech to educate people, even in the rural areas, about the methodologies of these scammers. If we don't do this, we will continue to suffer cyber attacks. We have penny pinching mentality. Penny pinching, they say when you pay payment, you hire monkeys. There are a lot of people who like cheap things. You will see something that you know that will cost you, a smartphone that you know that will cost you maybe like 300,000. Someone is telling you that if you go to this side, you buy it at 30,000 naira. People go there, then they get scammed. So buy from fake shopping website. I've talked about it. Investing or pay through unofficial channels. There are some channels that are not regulated. So you don't need to use these channels because even if you are compromised, nobody will try them because they wonder why sell them. Okay, so I'm going to discuss some of the approaches to enhance the payment security. The first is the risk management approach. So in PalmPay, we have what we call actually, we try to maintain a balance in providing security in our risk to avoid affecting the user experience. In as much as you are going to put security, you also remember there's going to be a user experience. When you put too much security, it affects you. But the most important thing is that you should be able, we are always conscious of making sure that our users on our platform, there is no loss of money. And secondly, we try as much as possible to repeat disturbances coming to them. The next slide. So I want us to look at what they call anyway, we say PalmPay closed loop risk management. Not just PalmPay, even other financial institutions need closed loop risk management. So establishing a closed loop risk management system is crucial, not just for fintechs, also for banks. It helps at maintaining a secure and trustworthy environment for each users. Without such process, security threats can go undetected, leading to financial losses, reputational damages. You can also face legal liabilities because when people lose money in your platform, definitely some of them can go to court. It depends on what happens, and you will lose money. So a code risk control process involves continuous monitoring, analyzing, and response to security threats. It allows us to detect and prevent risk in real time, reducing the potential impact of security incidents by integrating various data sources and applying advanced analytical techniques. We can identify patterns, anomalies, and may indicate potential risk, enabling them to take proactive measures to mitigate those risks. In PAMPay, risk management is based on user identity, network environment, user behavior, login of the devices. You provide them, make sure that before you use you ask for the top rate. Also looking at the facial application as well. Another basic data to establish a closed loop risk control process. We utilize process to accurately identify risks such as fake accounts, marketing fraud, loan fraud, port scam, credential stuffing, and other security threats by integrating various data sources and applying advanced algorithms. Our system provides comprehensive risk analysis and prevention measures to ensure a secure and trustworthy environment for all our users. Yes. The integration of AI technology is a risk management system that enhance the safety and security of organization, as well as provide more efficient and effective approach in managing risk. PAMPay AI powering risk management system is a sophisticated solution that harnesses the power of AI to provide comprehensive risk management capabilities through advanced user behavior analysis. The system can proactively detect and predict potential risk, allowing companies to take preventive measures before risk becomes significant issues. In the event of an actual risk, the system employs real-time intelligent defense mechanism to respond quickly and effectively. One of the key benefits of PAMPay AI is its ability to automatically adapt and learn from past risk events. By analyzing historical data, the algorithm can continuously refine its risk assessment and response mechanism, resulting in increasing effective risk management over time. The need for such system is essential in today's rapidly evolving technological landscape. As the use of digital platform and online transactions continue to grow, the potential risks associated with these activities also increase. By leveraging AI technology, we can better protect the users and manage for potential risks and trace all time. So for us in PAMPay, we employ what we call the multi-phased risk approach system. We do this to utilizing the real-time monitoring of users' devices, using systems and various business scenarios such as logins, card binding, and payment. The platform automatically identifies, analyzes, matches, judges, and makes decisions on management system. Is built on sophisticated framework that enables the system to process large amount of data quickly and accurately, while providing seamless risk management services to our users. With our advanced technology and expertise, PAMPay risk management platform ensures secure and reliable payment services for all. So, just as I said at the beginning of this presentation, I said that everything we are doing is to ensure customer trust and customer confidence, and also to ensure that our customers, even if they are scammed, we get the report on time. So we have been able to provide an in-app scam report. So once we are scammed, just send us the report so that enables people from the IT, the compliance and the risk people to follow up immediately and stop the fraud. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Another round of applause for Mr. Chika. Thank you for taking out the time to take us through what PAMPay is doing also to secure depositors' funds and also those who are in the users. Thank you very much. You know, we also now go to the panel to have a panel discussion to have our thoughts on this. But there's something that was very significant which Mr. Mosu raised. the advent of artificial intelligence. I'm sure it's very ironical and very funny that you get to your system and the system will say, confirm you are not a robot. Have anyone had that experience? Click that you're not a robot. How will the robot be asking me a question? I, the human. So I've sat down several times to ask, I look at my system and I say to myself, you are a robot and you are asking me, claim that you are not a robot. How do I, So on the lighter side, since you are going to click that you are not a robot, I'm going to invite live persons here to tell us more about what is artificial intelligence also doing. Some of you know ChatGPT right now, right? It has even made some of us academically lazy. People are writing thesis now. So the only thing is that how do we know that this is written by a system? Another system now detects the tonal reality of what we've written. So now another AI is out to check for tonal reality. Just imagine technology that has come to make life easier. Another one is coming to make life to say that you will add it the easier way. So anyway, these guys will tell us more why. Dr. Ojam is an ICT security expert. So Dr. Chukwuemeka Ojam, please join us here. I would also invite Mr. Mayowa Adeosun, who is the head of technology at PAMPay, to also join us in this conversation so he can speak the language that he wants us to understand as well. Let me also call on Mr. Edward Onyewako, the Chief Risk Officer for ICRASAT, to also join us. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for taking out the time to join us in this panel discussion. So I'll just hit the ball rolling. Dr. Ojam, you've listened to speakers from ICRASAT and PAMPay, as well as the other speakers earlier this morning. Your area is ICT security, and I would like you to shed light on the importance of cybersecurity, particularly in the areas of FinTech and other businesses as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. In the first panel, one of the gentlemen there was interested in being quite interactive with the audience. But I'll speak directly to certain things around cybersecurity that are more practical. Human beings are the weakest link in the chain. For every fraud, there's a higher percentage of social engineering. So somebody has gained access to something that you know about and has tried to convince you that he or she is genuine. And because we're humans, I don't believe that we should be blamed. So let me touch on, for instance, if there is a successful, or that example in the first panel of somebody's phone that was taken and money withdrawn within minutes. Now, for all intents and purposes, it's not that person's fault that the theft has occurred of the phone. Now, many institutions just want to hit back and lay blame back on the customer. And to me, that's not fair. Which then speaks to another thing that the legal person in the first panel spoke about from Alex. You see, I am concerned that culturally we are very forgiving. So, don't worry, how much was it? Pay the person back. Don't worry, it's an act of God, we can pray. So you then notice that in the courts, you have a dearth of cases that the judges can rely on. So there are laws, but how many of those laws have been adequately tested in the law courts? So you have a plethora of out-of-court settlements. I was a lawmaker, and I know I've been invited on many occasions to even give this kind of speeches to judges, because they also form, with all due respect to the learned individuals, slightly a weak link in the chain, because they don't understand technology. So that then speaks to even my colleagues in the National Assembly. Upskilling, capacity building. We need to invest a lot more in that kind of procedure and process, so that there's always a willing participant in the fraud ecosystem. Why do I say that? If all of us understand that when you receive a call from a number you don't know, asking you to send a number that you just received on your WhatsApp or whatever, I mean, everybody laughs, but they've still found so many victims, and that's why they're still successful, and that's why they are thriving in that process. So that's a problem. There's still so many gullible individuals out there. So what are we doing about upskilling? And now back to I think why we're here. You see, there's been allusions to collaboration, and it's important. FinTechs, I mean, the youth, we must applaud the youth, because they're the ones that are driving technology far beyond what the older people have ever imagined. Of course, that comes with its attendant consequences. One, yes, they're usually startups, so they don't have the kind of money, they have the brain power, but they don't have the kind of money and infrastructure to match well-established financial institutions. And then you then see regulators. So you see, there's one question: who is really the regulator of the fintech industry? Is it CBN, or is it the likes of NIDA? Because everyone's coming up with their policies, and there's no synergy. So you're being hit left, right, and center, and the real drive with government is, oh, let's just make money off people. So now you see technology is thriving, finding of taxation and taxing everybody and making sure they don't succeed. And I think we're getting it all wrong. We should also develop places where everybody can come and say, okay, I want to test my technology here, I want to test my anti-fraud protect. Because see, what happens is, we're by and large more reactionary. So, you know, the thief has come into the premises. Then you start shouting, ole, ole. Why didn't you prevent that thief from coming in? And they're always a step ahead of all of us. So we should have, you know, places where, you know, they say hackathons and all that, but invest more in people. Because, I mean, abroad, if you're caught as a fraud, you know, a hacker, the security services immediately want to take you in. They want to utilize that skill of yours. So we should do the same, because they're out there. There are people out there, and it's just, some people just want to play. They're just doing it for fun. So why don't you just harness that skill set? Keep them in places where they're churning out ideas, churning out technology to be ahead of those hackers or the people who are trying to defraud people. That is very critical. And the cost of, you know, security daily is increasing. So unless you collaborate, you will see duplication of ideas in various organizations that has just become totally unnecessary. So these are my initial thoughts for now. And
thank you.
From where I'm coming from, they say you speak again.
Dr. Ojam, thanks a lot. Mr. Edward, I want you to also look at risk, you know, and the emergence of artificial intelligence concerning cybersecurity and products.
Okay, thank you so much. Let me start by giving kudos to EFS and Vanguard for putting this program together. I think this is one of the strategic initiatives to combating fraud. So big kudos to the organizers and the collaborators. Now, looking at, I would have loved to ask also a question if we had the time. And the question is, do you think there will be a time when we'll have zero fraud in the industry? Okay, Nigeria. Let's say Nigeria. Do you think there will be a time when the US will have zero fraud? So you are perfectly correct. The truth is, as technology advances, right, as we adopt more of digital platforms, that increase in technology advancements also by default creates potential loopholes for fraud. And I use the word potential because as you deploy more technology, of course there are a lot of FinTech solutions coming up. Those fantastic idea innovations potentially introduces loopholes into the ecosystem, and that is the truth. So as we advance in technology, there is increased potential for breaches, and that will continue to be as long as there's technology. But what we do as professionals is that we need to look at how do we detect those potential loopholes on time and address them. Okay, because if you look at what I call the fraud management ecosystem, from fraud detection to fraud identification to fraud detection to prevention and recovery. Now, the traditional fraud system or techniques focuses more on recovery. They are, like he said, they are more of reactive. So things that have happened before they begin to, take measures. But in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of, machine learning, what they've provided us is opportunity to be able to analyze the data. For instance, fraudsters take advantage of unstructured data to compromise platforms. So this technology of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, they offer us the privilege, the opportunity to actually analyze those potential entry points from the point of identification. You don't wait until fraud is being detected before you need to take measures. So you identify the fraud source and address it on time. So artificial intelligence is fantastic because it helps us to be able to identify from the onset, and we can begin to apply measures to be able to prevent fraud. Thank you.
That's from the payment gateway perspective. Let me get the perspective from an operator. Amayawa, I want you to throw the set.
Okay, once again, thank you very much, and thanks to Vanguard for this summit and also every stakeholder in this room, in this hall. Somebody said something that occasions don't make great people, but great people make occasions great. And I believe everyone here are great people. For the operator side, when it comes to, you're talking about artificial intelligence, artificial intelligence is just about more of an automatic methodology to actually manage risk, as I said, talk about identifying risk and all the rest. And from the operator part of it, what artificial intelligence just does for you is that, of course, the human, even behind artificial intelligence, there is the human part behind it. Of course, it's always been okay, as a human being, we can't be awake 24 hours of the day. You now have robots, and you have putting some, based on patterns, based on behaviorals, based on maybe from operator side now, like we in Pampi doing payments, and you have transactional monitoring tool, you have verification tools, all these behinds, all are just, they're all relying on artificial intelligence. You're looking at patterns to look at fraud monitoring, to look at the transaction monitoring, and you get those data, and when you notice an abnormality based on the patterns, because AI is just on patterns, there are patterns you've researched, you've worked on part-time, every day, every month, weekend, every day, and you're able to come up with an algorithm and you put it into your system, and this is updated every day because this pattern changes. The black hackers, the bad guys, they change everything per time. So what it has been able to, the AI has been able to do from the operator end is that it give us data to analyze. You can monitor payments, you can monitor transactions, you can monitor something is happening. Oh, somebody is doing a car transaction, a person is in Lagos, you notice that same account being debited in Gombe. You're seeing that same card, another details of that same card happening around in Lagos or around in Ibadan. Automatically, that's pattern has already shown that this is a fraud case. How can this be happening at different locations? And then AI gets good data and probably maybe the account is being suspended and then whatever it's being done. So AI has actually helped so much when it comes to risk, managed risk, helps to also save customer their funds and every other things. So I think that's all basically I will come from the
So John has something to say in relation to that.
So let's analyze AI. Okay. Now the issue with AI is, remember, AI is all about continuous learning and improving the system. So the feedback loop always comes back and says, this is the new input. But the originator is still the human. And the human is prone to error. So what you just alluded to is just, you've recognized an irregular pattern. But what was the, so I say irregular pattern as per somebody is really resident in Abuja, and you know he or she is resident in Abuja and normally does not transact in Sokoto. Therefore, there's a trigger that something is irregular. Now, but the issue is, what did you feed into the system to address that irregularity? And have you really gone through the entire process? So when we are all jumping on the AI bandwagon, we need to be sure that the information fed into the repository is accurate. And that's where I've also spoken to other people and said, look, we need to be sure that the phenomenon of garbage in, garbage out does not occur within the AI ecosystem, because that's very, very important. Okay, so to what length have we gone through to make sure that the machine that we're relying on is being fed with accurate data and information?
Okay. That means capacity is very key. Competence is very important. When you look at those who will actually be in charge of fraud detection and cybersecurity. So, but the challenge is, as we said, a lot of fintechs are startups. Most of them have just maybe 5 or 6 persons. They do not have even the resources in most cases to have a compliance officer, a risk officer, but they have 1, 2 eggheads who are tech guys, founder and co-founder. They have, usually it's founder and co-founder, then followed by the guy who manages the money, who is bringing in the funds. That becomes the COO. So you have that. Then you have 1 person who runs admin. So about 5 of them, most times. Has always been the case for what I've done with my surveys with startups. So they've done most of them exceed 7. But with this challenge that's coming up, is there any hope for having maybe like a hub where you can get these services and maybe at some reduced fee to protect these startups? Because there's a lot of money going into startups in the fintech ecosystem. And we do not want a situation where we say, okay, $10 billion got to Nigeria and it was wished away by fraud or cybersecurity lapses. So what do you think we can do to provide risk management services for startups and fintechs particularly?
Okay, thanks. So I will approach it from this angle. You mentioned people issue, right? But again, we must acknowledge and understand that fraud has different sources. I call them source points. Just like when COVID-19 started, right? If you want to walk into a corporate office, you're asked to sanitize your hand. You're asked to take some precautions, okay? The same thing happens within the ecosystem. There are entry points, there are exit points. One of them is people. Okay, you mentioned that. So in terms of building capacity, okay, in terms of things like segregation of duty, even the people themselves, the background check that work, okay, are entry points to the ecosystem. Then again, there's a process component. Why we have addressed people component, we must address process component, because again, if processes fail, things are about to go wrong. There's likelihood of a fraud, okay? Processes like maker checker, you shouldn't start and complete the transaction. Okay, we must put those things in place. Things like technology, which is other source from technology, things like we've mentioned artificial intelligence, okay, machine learning, those things must be put in place So why yes, we can encourage people to subscribe to a central hub if they don't have that capacity. But I think the starting point is that every fintech, because of the uniqueness of their risk, must sit down and be able to analyze, okay, from people perspective, these are the loopholes. Okay, from process perspective, these are the loopholes, and from technology, these are the loopholes. Because if you don't do all of this, if it's not holistic enough, you might be focused on people alone, and fraud can happen from process failure and technology failure. So I think it has to be holistic if we must address fraud effectively.
You know why I'm coming to this?
Sorry, the reason why we're coming to this is because competence don't come cheap. That is the truth. And you know, you want a risk officer, and you look at what you're going to give us enumeration for a risk officer. That alone can sustain that company for a year as a startup. You look at getting someone who handles the internal security system, architecture of that particular infrastructure you built, because you can't. Being an IT person who developed a framework or an infrastructure do not also give you the liberty to see the loopholes that may be in that system. But we're talking about getting risk officers, compliance officers, and a whole lot of persons who are gatekeepers to the process in terms of prevention and also taking proactive measures in security. They don't come cheap. Startups, like any other business, requires the competence of this person. And we're saying, is there any way we can leverage on the hub system to get this thing at a fee to enable them survive?
So you speak to a very good idea, but I don't know how many people in the room have seen the Nigerian Startup Bill. I don't know if the President has assented to it. So yes, okay, so it's now an act of parliament. So if you have, then you will see there's some elements in the Startup Act that can help and address what you're speaking to. Collaboration is paramount. People must be able to say, well, I need X amount of services from you. Can we synergize? And that way it becomes cheaper. There are firms that offer services that are not necessarily bespoke, but blanket for startups. For instance, without wanting to market, my firm also does lobbying for people, and I'm not tied to a particular industry or a particular firm or a sector. So you just do that. Go to National Assembly, try and educate them or make them change laws that will suit you. So, if, for instance, in the Startup Act, there's no provision to enable, because I know there are elements that speak to or tax breaks, tax incentives, but that's not really the issue here. The issue is the expensive nature of, or the dearth of proper quality, hands. And so therein lies a business opportunity. People can create organizations that lend that support to helping startups, and say, because there's no law that says one person cannot work for 5-6 companies, and that person could still get the kind of money he would have had if he was a permanent staff in one organization. So to answer you directly, therein lies a business opportunity. So maybe you start the company tomorrow.
Opportunity comes knocking then. Okay, Maiwa.
Okay, to portray this point, presently I think now we're looking at startups. Of course, in terms of infrastructure, it's costly. In terms of getting the right hands, risk, having the right skill sets, very, very expensive. You're looking at cost and everything. My own take now, even presently now you want to do for a startup, you need to meet up with all the ISO standards, certifications, PCI DSS is there, so expensive to get that done. The ISO 27001, information security, business continuity plan, the ITO part of it, which has to do improvement, quite a number of all this. So to get different hands to cover that, so very, very expensive. So I think there's even a company, I'm not marketing anyone in Nigeria presently.
Go ahead, so they need it.
That actually offer that service. So what they do basically is, for you to have those infrastructure, all those, the firewalls, everything, they have that infrastructure already. So basically, as a fintech, you look at what is your value add, what are you giving to, what's your business, what's your objective, what are you doing, and you plug your system into that infrastructure. So they give you the basic things that you need. Basically, so for someone, all they need is just PCI DNS, depending on the value of their business. For some other person, it's just the ISMS, maybe information security they need, and for some other, it might be other things. So the required equipment or the required infrastructure that you needed. So it would be like a pay as a service kind of a thing. You just plug in into those services that you need, and they offer you that service at a very limited cost. So what happens again is that they have the right human resource available also. So if you don't have maybe somebody who's an IT auditor, you don't have the compliance, whatever like that, they can offer the service and you ride on them to provide the service so as to meet. I think that's good for startups. So as you're growing, then such startups or such co-founder and founder start looking at also getting their own in as they grow also, but they can, for starting up, at least they can leverage on those kind of initiatives.
Dr. Jam, as a security expert, now let's look at the issue of insider abuse. You know, despite you may do all the background checks on the staff, and they get into that place and get excited by the volume of money they see. And yes, we've had these issues of systems being compromised within the system. So what kind of measure do you take in place? And at what level do you take those measures to stem issues of insider abuse? Some abuses come from management. You know, they've gotten so excited and they now want to, you know, appropriate certain kinds of monies to themselves, not minding that this is public funds and it's depositors' funds. What kind of measures do you think we can put in place to checkmate insider abuse, apart from sending regulatory reports and all that? What kind of process can we put in place?
Okay, it's difficult to, when you're doing analysis or research, one of the most difficult items to model is a human being, because we're prone to all kinds of external influences. So I could wake up in a good mood, I could wake up in a bad mood. I suddenly could hear that there's financial pressure back in my village, and therefore I'm forced to find innovative ways of making more money to send back home. So, well, it's not very easy to answer that question, because I could come into an organization a saint and leave a demon. I could come in a demon and become a saint afterwards. You know, people change. Where it's very, very, I mean, even when I was doing my PhD, modeling a human being is almost impossible. Now, the only thing you do is make sure total value does not reside in one individual, so that there's a form of check and balance. You know, the person writing the check is not the same person who gives permission to the bank to pay. Is not the same person who is the auditor. So you need to make sure that various portfolio is spread. But you know, back to that same thing of startups. The founder is usually the account holder, the sole signatory. So but it's very difficult. Now, so it just speaks to, you know, and I don't want to stray into the area of politics, but it just speaks to a shift in our mindset. There are climes where crime is really abhorrent. There are countries that have, you know, either zero tolerance to crime, or there as a people, they're culturally averse to crime. But, you know, back home, unfortunately, you know, let me go to the positive, because I know there's no need speaking Nigeria as well, but still kudos to this whole tech, FinTech, stroke tech ecosystem. We are miles ahead of even Britain, US. I mean, look at the banking. If you bank in the UK, there's certain services you would say, come, but in Nigeria, I get these, I get my alerts, but just existing those clients. And we are miles ahead of. Somebody's echoing my voice, my nice voice. So, it's important for us to recognize that we are skilled, have, look at National Orientation Agency and how they always sing, have more, be more patriotic. But asking me to say, to tell you, give you an antidote for somebody who wants to steal, preventing him from stealing, doesn't exist.
Is there any other antidote?
So while the realities of what Dr. painted exist, I will say that we can also look at certain controls, and I classify them as both internal and external. So from internal point of view, of course, you know that one of the dangerous form of fraud we've experienced in the ecosystem is collusion, where two people come together to actually, execute the fraud. So one of the things I would recommend is that we look at options like job rotation. Okay, so if you're always involved in signing check, from time to time you can look at putting you to different departments, okay? Then we need to watch out for things like relationship. So you can imagine where the husband and the wife are both the CFO and the secretary, okay? So we need to watch out for a relationship. People that can be compromised, maybe the boss having that influence over the subordinates, so we need to watch out for such kind of signal. Then from a snap point of view, I think that is where the oversight of regulators come into play. Okay, so nothing stops the regulators from enforcing some of these things. Okay, you're coming to an organization where the founder, like you said, is both the CEO, is the CFO, the one that approves everything. Such kind of measures, or practices shouldn't be allowed. So we can also have oversight from the regulators. Like you said, it's difficult, but I believe with some of this little, enforcement, we can actually, be able to control them.
When you say those kind of measures should be involved, but we all want to start our business, and I'm starting with my wife. So what do we do next? Do you understand? I mean, so but if
yeah, I think that's a very salient point. Your key supporter.
Yeah, but she's the one that signs the checks, and we therefore collude to defraud people huge amounts of money. But then, what about the positive? What if we genuinely have such a great business, and then we're growing it? You're then saying, oh, I must employ X amount, and then you're eroding the entire profit margins that we're making. So it's not fair. You can't say, don't put us in the same vault as those big companies. We're growing. That's what it's a startup. That's what this ecosystem is looking at. So we should look at it, from that point of view. So I'm not attacking you. I'm just trying to point out.
I think that's the uniqueness of control. Sometimes they say you create control and then suddenly become uncontrollable. But it's interesting that we looked at these issues because these are early flags that they raise for people who are at risk, talking about relationships and all that. But I think that should be at maybe after the formative stage of the startup. But at the early stage of a startup, I don't think that may also be quite fundamental. But as a player, I cracked some jokes here. If you go to TikTok, a lot of people have been singing about Pampi. So they say, they say Pampi don't come carry person with worry is even more funny because I'm brought up from the Niger Delta, and so PG is here. So but you go in this and you run, so they are Pampi in my house. But I never even knew that Pampi even gives loans. So, but interestingly, these things are, so people don't say, that means that you build a watertight system on how to make recoveries and all that. So some people should learn from it. But the thing is, interestingly, you played in this space, agent banking space, POS space, and you guys were like the savior of the CBN nightmare that time. We were trying to look at cash flows and a host of others because banks were having challenges trying to do transfers and all that. So people resorted to FinTechs. Now, let's look at it. At that period, were there any challenges in terms of attacks? Because I recall that NIDA said there were over 133 million attacks just between January and the elections. So, what percentage constituted that of FinTechs? And for you as a player, what ratio got to your side?
Okay, I will answer part of the questions and I will leave my MD also to answer some part. during the cash crunch, and what we noticed very well on our own part as a player was that immediately we started noticing it was so crazy, such that I didn't really go to the market myself. I had to go to the market and I had to do one or two things, and I wanted to transfer. They said it's PalmPay they are using, or the other party or whatever, and from the technology part, what we got to know that was that the volume of transactions just increased greatly. So immediately we started noticing, transactions were failing for one or two things, and immediately we had to increase our bandwidth. We had to spin up more servers. We had to quickly upgrade some of our infrastructure just to ensure that volume, because that volume was actually crazy. And then in terms of attacks, there are attacks anyway. But to give you a particular percentage, but at least the system was very secure enough to actually handle that. And when we did the upgrade and every other thing, we were able to actually accommodate more of the transactions. We're successful, we see more successful transactions and every other thing like that. So it was basically more upgraded on the infrastructure part. For the other part of the loan, whatever, let me allow Chika to talk about that.
I'm going to this time around give room for people to ask questions, not comments. Questions. Please let your question have just only one part. Just ask one question. But while we wait for questions to come up, Mr. Chika, you can just respond to this whole matter.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, we have watched on TikTok. You guys see where people are saying they are PalmPay. They are recovering loan. Honestly, those people are not PalmPay staff. One, they are not PalmPay staff. They are not PalmPay partner. They are not our agent. In fact, I can tell you they are not even our wallet users. They are not even our customers. We don't know them, they don't know us. I think those young men are just catching crews. They are using the name of the company. Because I'll be very honest with you. Because we are not too low. We are not giving loan, so we are not recovering it. Even if we want to recover loan, we have a robot system that we can use to recover loan. Not going to the street to carry people all that's what I want the other time. That man came and said, he came to visit. So he said they want to come and preach the word of God to him. They need to share that time. So honestly, they are not PalmPay. They are not PalmPay. They are just catching crews. And we have already written to them. We have already trained them and told them to stop. And maybe very soon we will not be seeing it again online. Thank you very much.
So you see, that was the campaign was something else. And I started asking questions. Do PalmPay give loans? And I don't know. But interestingly, people were catching their crews. And then, someone said that POS people will not make heaven. Because of what happened during the cash crunch. So people were responding in different ways. So someone put out that PalmPay and the rest are going to be shut down by CBN. I'm sure some of you have seen some of those information. That one CBN came out and said it's not true. People say it's a lie. CBN is not the one that said it. How can CBN? That's one of the things you get in digital space. People are more expressive and they take over conversations and run it in the way that they deem fit to themselves. And these are areas where some people have not been used as scapegoats for cyber law. I think one CEO is in prison now, and all the people who supported her have not been able to give her bail money to come out. So the thing is, that's the truth. The truth is that we also need to bring that kind of experience to cyber attacks. It's under the same cyber law. Is this the same cyber law that we're talking about for cybersecurity that got somebody to stay in prison, and yet all the people who said they support her for everything that she has said have not mobilized 10 million naira for bail. So the thing is, we need to get also people who perpetrate this fraud to come to that, because some people come to also glamorize and glorify fraud. It's in digital space and say it's reparations, it's whatever. So when some people are just made to understand how reparations is done in Ikoyi prison or somewhere in Italy or one prison in Agodi, you don't understand this. Because you see, we're laughing about it now, but it's a very painful experience. If you've been defrauded, you know how traumatizing it is. It's very traumatizing. You just have to ask yourself, how did you become a fool? What did I do wrong? How come this could happen to me? And sometimes we are even ashamed to speak out. You just hide yourself and say, how can I tell people that this small boy had just hit me? And because that was what happened. People come to me for security advice on IT. So when a small boy hits me, I didn't know what to go. I didn't know how to go about it. I just kept quiet. I didn't say anything to anybody. I just went to someone. If you see the way I was whispering at the police office, the boy just did it to me like this, like that. So I will take 6 questions because we gave 4 in the morning. We can increase now. Please, if your question has been dealt with, just give room to the next person. I appeal to you. So just raise your hand. From the back, the guy with the black shirt, number 1. The man with the suit, number 2. The man in green, 3. Are the other hands there? The lady, 4. The guy in red, 5. The lady, 6. For now. So, number 1. Don't thank us, just go straight to the point.
Okay, so I was listening to, you were saying something concerning when they frauded your company and took around 600,000, yes? So, along the line, I wanted to ask one question because outside the country, once you catch somebody that bright, yeah, they actually take him and train him and utilize him and get to know all the wonderful things he can do for their company. So my question to you is, why put him in a cell when you can utilize his potentials?
I'm glad you said the other side. Yeah. You didn't understand what was going on. First, I was traumatized because these were customers' funds. And having to recover, and I couldn't even find any meaningful thing the guy did with that money that he moved. But sadly, as it is, even the police were shocked. I told you, they kept looking at the guy in the car. Like, could you be the one? And he didn't even want his mother to know. The mother kept praying for this guy, thinking this guy is in school. He was already holed up in a hotel in one village near Ondo town. This is a guy, a brilliant guy, who was in a boarding school, secondary school. He had left school. So, as intelligent as he may be, I don't have that answer because our regulatory system and our enforcement system says you are caught as a thief, they deal with you as a thief. They don't want to look at the other part of your intelligence. So do you understand me? No, for me, I'm amazed at how he did it. My IT guy who has been collecting huge salaries, but yes, he got the salary, he lost about 30% of it because of that. So we just told him that since you can't deal with somebody at this age, you shouldn't be earning this much. And he agreed. Because we are going to lose money.
Alright, thank you
very
much.
Okay. Second person, please.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Lawrence. One thing is pretty obvious when we're talking about fraud. The scammers, the fraudsters, they're helping each other. But we the ecosystem and the FinTech companies, are struggling to share data with each other and help each other. I want to come from the fraud and credit perspective. In terms of trying to mitigate fraud and trying to be risk adverse, I wonder, for some of the lenders that we have in the house, or for some of the stakeholders that we have in the house today, not a lot of people are tech savvy enough to understand some type of fraud mechanism. For instance, using device information.
Question.
Yes, I'm arriving. Using device information to block fraud. I've seen an institution, or some of the institutions that I work with at my company today, they use our solutions to prevent fraud, but they're telling you not to tell the other guy or the other company that XYZ solution is working for them, so you can't use them as a reference point to actually make your sales. So I wonder, I want to hear from the panelists. What do you think is a way forward that the ecosystem can understand that sharing data is the right way to actually combat fraud? Thank you.
So, when I was speaking initially, I used this word many times, and that's collaboration. Look, for instance, within the telecom sector, gone are the days where telecom company A will build a mast, telecom company B will build a mast, and now there's co-location. So using that same analogy, it should exist within this particular ecosystem, where there's a collocation of ideas, there's a collocation of even testing, there's a collocation of, so back to his unfortunate incident, there should be a platform where you can even anonymously say, this has just happened to me, beware. Because that's how you then propagate the knowledge that, you know, these kind of things do happen. So there should be a platform where you can put in that, you know, you can anonymize your company name, but say, this actually happened. And that way, other people will learn from that. And you know, we're all human beings of synergy. You say you learn from somebody else's either good or bad experience. So there has to, we need to encourage that deliberately, and that's the only way we can go forward. And then for the young man in jail, yes, there's always rehabilitation. So as part of rehabilitation, maybe take that guy into a system where you would utilize his brain and channel that energy in a positive direction.
So that would be a suggestion for law enforcement. So I'm not in law enforcement. The third person, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes. My question goes directly to the financial institution. I'm not going to talk about telecom. Financial institutions in Nigeria now, they have a situation whereby they don't have what it takes with the situation of what we are talking about, cybercrime. Yes, because most of the technologies, most of the nodes that they use to detect the bank infrastructures are not available in financial institutions. So they import their own, or they manufacture, they program their own to be able to work against the system we have. So what are the things financial institution is doing to put up a structure, infrastructure in place that will mitigate crime?
You said financial institutions.
Yes, the door is always open.
Interestingly, the man that would have represented financial institutions have gone, CBN. But the thing is that if you were asking questions about a FinTech, right, people in FinTech have answers for you here. But for now, financial institutions, CBN, he has gone. So, if you are going to redirect your question, then you will get a redirected answer.
Yes, when we're talking about financial institution, there's no way they cannot use a FinTech facility.
No, because you were isolating them before when you asked the question.
Sorry. So there are, like what they said, talk about FinTech. FinTech is all about.
Okay, now you said you have redirected the question. Thank you. Give the microphone to the next person. So anybody can give an answer to that. That you are always importing technology. That means that what happens is that when issues come up, you don't have the way to defend them. You have to start looking for defense also from those who you imported the technology from.
Okay, in terms of infrastructure, or probably talking about FinTech, in terms of for every public equipment, or for every equipment, IT equipment that you actually, yes, even though it's imported or whatever, what I believe organizations, FinTech, they have a right to resource that manages such. The other part also is, you can have the infrastructure on ground, you give for your users to use 2FA, PIN, biometrics, whatever. If all those infrastructure are available and you as a user, you don't use any one of them, so what is the FinTech going to do about it? Because there is a part for the FinTech to play, and there is a part for you as a customer on the other end using their app or using their bank to play. So if they tell you to do something and you're not doing it, and you now put the whole problem on the FinTech, it's not possible. So for the areas of the infrastructure, maybe when they have challenges or whatever, there are supports. Support takes care of that. So everybody has support, even though you use the cloud, there is a support. So if you have challenges, you pay for these services and they resolve whatever issue you want to have. Also, you have the skill set of people who are on ground to manage those infrastructure. So when they can't manage such that they have challenges, what they do, of course they have support and they take care of it. So I think that's not, for me, it's not a big deal.
You have something to say, sir? Okay. All right, the next person, the lady, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. My question is on the area of the layman education, because we have a situation whereby banks are not willing to take responsibility whenever there's a fraud. So, and the CBN man was talking about protecting your SIM, protecting your phone with your what's the number again?
SIM lock.
SIM lock. Okay. So what steps are being taken to ensure that the layman gets the right education, at least the first phase, to see to it that they have a role to play in securing the data on their phone and seeing to it that a lot of fraud can be prevented if they get the right information?
Okay, I'll start from my own experience, right? Responsibility of the consumer education starts first from the provider of that service. If, for example, I'm to use PalmPay, I should start getting consumer education from PalmPay, maybe as text message, emails, and so on and so forth, right? That's the first responsibility. The provider of that service owes you some form of responsibility to tell you measures to protect yourself. You will see banks and some telcos send SMS to people. Do not disclose this. Our bank will never ask you for this. I'm sure some of us get some of these messages in our emails or as text messages.
Yes, sir.
It's deliberate. And the reason why they do that is because over time they've discovered that a lot of consumers are not excited about taking adequate measures to protect themselves. You know, there's something that puts people off. When I told my IT people to set up our site, one of the things is that I said put all the requirements, ask for BDN, ask for the name. He said no, that when you ask them like that, they get put off. They just want their name, email, phone number, and password. That when they come on board before they start doing that, I said no. If you are not interested in following the step from the beginning, don't be interested to know the end. Because the thing is, a lot of people get put in when you put a lot of security measures. So when they say put this, put pin this, OTP this and that, people just get put off and they say they don't want. The same set of people, when they are hit, and if you see the way they shout and cry and come to your office, you understand the issue. But the thing is, that responsibility comes from the service provider to which you consume their product or service. That's the first answer to that. Because if you are using Access Bank, UBA will not send messages to you. Right? So they have, each provider will have the responsibility of consumer education first. Before we now start talking about regulator and the NTA and orientation agencies and all that. Is that answered, please?
Can I add to that?
Okay, please.
Okay, I just want to just show us what we do at BitTransat. Maybe we can also take a clue from that. So what we do every year, thank God for COVID-19 that has shown us that we can actually reach thousands and if possible millions of people virtually. So what we do since COVID-19 is that we bring all our agents, okay, through the virtual platform and we give them detailed awareness program. Because again, awareness can never be enough, okay, which is one of the basic tools to addressing fraud. Because most of the fraud that we have today in the ecosystem happen at the user's perspective. So again, we can, like you said, the provider of a service put up a virtual training. It could be once a year, it could be twice a year. Enlighten your people, your users, your customers, your agents on some basic things they need to do to be able to protect themselves. Thank you.
Okay, the next person. You will get to you. That's the, you are the number 6 now. Number 5, sir. No, it's not the last one. The lady here is.
Well, it's supposed to be a lady.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sengali Amidebi, and I used to in Yaba Tech, the Department of Business and Me. So, my question is, what kind of intervention does financial sector are likely to formulate for the incoming government that is about to start very soon in tackling fraud and cybersecurity? And I believe that this should not be limited to banking alone. It should be limited to other sectors, education.
Okay.
Most importantly.
All right, noted. So, Ujams is here. He's a lobbyist. The league for government. He has been a House of Reps member. So, what you will do, Dr. Ujams is here. Once we are done with this program meeting, you can create your lobby group to you will go to National Assembly. But aside that, there will be answers to your questions by experts. But I've just tell you another key steps. If everybody is being introduced here, take advantage of them. I said this thing about entering CBN. Somebody said I should come say public building. Police station is public building. I said CBN is not. When you get to Tinubu Square, you understand how free it is to enter. So when you see people here, right, take advantage of the networking. Take advantage of the networking. I know there are some ICT companies that came here. They provide cybersecurity solutions. This one, TBO, are they here? Also, TBO. Okay, that's one. There's another ICT company. There's another one at the back. See, they all provide services for small, medium, and large-scale companies. Forget about the address that is in Lekki. If you have small money, they will attend to you. My father said there's no bad money, there's only bad customer. So note that every amount, nothing is too little for them to attend to you. They will answer your question, right? So are you satisfied? I've just given you an expo. Please, what steps do you have to tell the next government that this problem is a problem?
Okay, so it's a very interesting question from the final year student. My first advice to you is make sure you get very good grades from your school and become useful. So I'm not implying that you're useless. The financial services usually are under a regulator, and the regulator is usually appointed by government. So there will be, for the incoming government, they will have a new team, and they'll have their own ideas. When we know the picture of the new government and the people in certain positions, then you can even write anonymous letters to them and suggest your ideas. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. My answer to say.
Okay. Basically, for the financial services advice to the incoming government, I believe financial services have actually identified probably the challenges. So for the new government is for them to look at what have been the challenges. So you're not having a new will, basically look at the old, what have we missed? What are the problems? What are the challenges, urban areas, and also rural areas, everything around the problems or challenges the financial institution is facing. All those problems should be given to the new government. Let them look at it. They shouldn't just throw it away. Then build on it. Then the things that are working that are good, then improve on those processes and have a better economy for everyone. I think that is just a matter of communication between the old government and new government and accountability. I think that will solve it, and responsibility.
Okay, let's take the question from the lady.
Okay, hello, my name is Anjideka. So a very short story. So a few years ago, I was talking to someone who turned out to be a fraudster, and he was trying to explain to me how he actually works. So what he said he does is, say for instance, there's a big organization, say Nine Mobile and then CBN having a conversation. So what he does is that he tries to clone CBN's website. So this is what he said that I found quite interesting. So when, say, Nine Mobile sends an email to CBN, he gets to see it first before CBN. And it happens, I don't know how it happens, but he said he gets to see it first. And if it's not favorable to him, he forwards it, it automatically goes to CBN. But if it's favorable to him, whatever conversation it is that CBN, whatever thing it is that CBN has written, he cancels it out and writes his own and sends it back to Nine Mobile. So, what he does, so when there's it gets to the point where, so he continues to track until it gets to the point where money is being mentioned. So even sometimes when they're having some negotiations, he monitors that, right? And then they say, okay, make this payment into this account. He takes it, he clears off whatever it is that, say, Nine Mobile or CBN must have written. that writes his own account, and they don't even realize that somebody else has already taken over the conversation. Sorry, it's already done. Yeah, so they don't even realize that somebody else has already taken over the conversation. They make the payment into his own account, and he gets off the website and the conversation completely. And then the other people start to say, but I paid money into your account, that sort of thing. So how can somebody become even aware that this sort of thing is even happening and try to protect themselves?
I'm sure some of you have heard of the guy called Invictus, right? He's relaxing somewhere in the USG, right? Okay, it's something like this. We call it business meal compromise. They have a way of, see, like as you said, as technology continues to go up, so also would, people follow where there's money, either for positive or negative reasons. So if there's a lot of money in this building, the traffic on this road will change. You have traffic on the island because there's a lot of money on the island. People who determine financial services, they're all on the island. That's why you have traffic on the island. The day banks move their head office from the island, you won't see anybody. Go and ask those in Lagos Island. The moment banks move away from Lagos Island, there are empty buildings there now. So where money is, people will always go to that place. It's like bees and honey. So the answer is not far-fetched. The tech experts will give you the technical details involved in it. They will tell you how it is done. For me, I know something for certain. Where there's money, there's traffic. And the traffic comes with both the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. So if there's no money in something, people don't practice it.
Okay, I don't want to bore you with the lot of technical background of that, but what the guy is simply doing is called man in the middle attack. Okay, so I stand in the middle, he is trying to communicate to him, right? And because there's no secure channel between both of them, I'm able to capture what he's saying and translate to him. So he believes that communication is actually coming from him. Meanwhile, I'm the one who have intercepted that communication. So just a quick fix is, today we have a lot of channels. Okay, you have web. Okay, so if you get a web where you're trying to transact, for instance, check the security of that website. Okay, are they using encryption? And one of the things you could do, look at on that website, then you'll see a key. Okay, if you click on it, can you see something like padlock? Okay, to validate that website is secure. Okay, I don't want to speak much of technical, but again, we have heard of HTTPS, right, which is a secure version of transmission. So what you could do is that look at secure channels. Okay, some channels are not too secure, so you can also choose the channel that you choose, that you transact on. Okay, but again, we need to get to the detail of what he was doing to able to advise appropriately. But it's simply what he's doing is to intercept that communication and just deceive the next person. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
So yes, still speaking technically, so communication between two devices, two credible devices, especially when it comes to email, or communication is two-way, so they will use the TCP, so there should be a response. Now, yes, the man in the middle attack does happen, but really, if you're a bit more observant, if you hover around an email address, you would see behind that it's actually not what it presents to be. So there are just telltale signs to look out for. When an image is created, it's very easy to tell whether it is, well, sorry, when I say very easy, it may not be readily apparent, but then it's easier to tell if it's a fake email address or a fake company, or someone pretending or alluding to be the genuine one. And then there's still that phenomenon of, if it is too good to be true, then it is too good to, it is definitely false. So, and the guy telling the story could be telling, could be, flower using, just trying to accentuate what he really was doing. I understand what the Invictus guy was doing in America or whatever, but there usually is an encryption channel when it comes to financial services. When they're talking to themselves, there's an encryption channel. They use tokenization and all this to make sure that they secure the communication between two people. So if you're making a payment, as you alluded to, make sure it's the HTTPS, and you've hovered around the email address, make sure that what's behind it is actually the same thing that you're expecting, because you could present as Emeka Uja, but behind you see it is 144 at yzzz.za, so just check that the two match, and you'll be okay.
Okay. So these are ICT guys, so they're explaining the language.
Okay, basically just to add to everything we've said, it could be man in the middle attack, it could also be email phishing, and at the end part of it is basically there's 3 layers. There's a network layer, there's an application layer, there's a web network layer, and the application layer. So that's why he was telling you about, if you notice a padlock, which is more like a SSL, called a secure socket layer, just to ensure that, okay, you're dealing with a secure site. So at the back end for transactions, when it comes to payment transactions or financial transactions, there's what we call VPN, virtual private network. And the VPN basically is to ensure, okay, I'm talking to him, and the transaction is just between me and him alone. So it's very hard because it's very hard for a man in the middle attack to come in. And also that's on the network layer. You share keys, cryptographic keys, and different things, and encryption keys. Then on the application part also, there is the encryption keys that, okay, I encrypt. He has the only thing to decrypt, and then all this is just to ensure that, okay, transaction, whatever information is being passed is not abused, is not removed. Integrity and the confidentiality also is there secure. So that's what really happens for the financial transactions. So if there is no VPN, maybe it's over the web, then there is always more time that you can easily get to see somebody who's spoofing, or somebody denial of service, somebody who is doing, we call it domain DNS, domain name services scripting or something like that. So different things that happen. So but for the technology part, you have those layers that secure your payment transactions between two organizations. So I think that's all from me.
Thank you very much. I think we've exhausted questions for today. You see?
An observation.
Observation. Okay, please, let him observe. Please, your observation should not last more than 30 seconds, please.
So, thank you. I'm blessed. I'm not sure you know.
Please put on the microphone.
Thank you. I'm Blessed Olasid, Empower Africa Project. I'm not sure you noticed that there was an attempt today. Yes, a device is open and shared and said that you can make yourself available for access. So it's just being practical. Fraud, scamming, hacking happens everywhere, and there was an attempt today. So I just want us to know that we really need to be sensitive. I saw it, and many people, probably from people have actually opened, and the thing is that once you just press, when you just click on it, then they have access to your device, and you know the rest. So, and then again, when talking about, it is possible for the company to make the information available, but the question is that how many of us, from buying data and holding our devices, how many of us spend time learning than watching comedy on our phones? That's another problem. All this information are available, but how many of us open it to read, to watch, to follow? So I want to encourage that we should spend time learning. We should spend, so, and then again, when a bank sends you an email, most of the time the email should be in PDF or PNG format. We don't always want to open image, and that is where they put the information. That's another thing. The information will check us. So really, for tech, for internet, we have to be committed. Wherever there's transaction, there must be fraud. It's from the beginning. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments, observation, questions? Having exhausted that opportunity, I want to say thank you very much. Everyone put a round of applause for yourself. I want to specifically thank everyone who have taken it upon themselves to have been here all day to discuss this all-important matter. cybersecurity and fraud. You know, if you've not been a victim, just take adequate measures not to be. You know, when you hear the stories that touch, it is from cyber fraud. You will know what is called stories that touch. So I want to thank Dr. Ojam, Edward, Mairowa for sparing us the time to be members of our panel. I'm going to call on them to join us in the group photograph here. Please come forward. Jude, please. Mr. Chika, please join us in this group photograph.
Please off that. Not you. Stop. Yeah, please. They should off the projector. See it. Mr. Look at the camera. Okay, but I think you've taken pictures before now.
Something that, project something that.
So, but they are getting the picture. I think this is okay. Hey, this is better. And they should.